you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground? At Gravitas, we don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it
Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Our cover story tonight is from Pakistan, where the Imran Khan arrest saga continues. 72 hours after being arrested, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been granted bail by the Islamabad High Court. His party workers have been celebrating, while the tensions on the ground are showing all signs of escalating. Here's why I say this. Imran Khan is not mincing any words. In fact, he has said that there is no rule of law in Pakistan, that the country is run by only one man. That's the army chief. And the immediate questions are, Imran Khan is now free, but for how long? What happens next? Where do things go from here? We discuss that in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, as Ukraine gears up for its counter-offensive, where are things headed? The UK is supplying Storm Shadow missiles to the country. Is the West arming Ukraine to defend itself or strike well within Russia? Bangladesh and Myanmar are bracing for a severe cyclone. We get you the latest from on the ground. The Israel-Palestine tensions continue to dominate headlines for days. Where are things headed? What's happening on the ground? And how far will you go for social media views? We tell you the story of a YouTuber who has admitted to crashing a plane just for social media views. Our cover story tonight is about Imran Khan. Just 72 hours after he was put behind bars, the leader has now been granted bail. This afternoon, he walked out of the Islamabad High Court surrounded by a battery of lawyers, security officials, media personnel. His party workers broke into applause as his supporters celebrated across the country. But the question is, for how long can he remain a free man? And over the next few minutes, we discuss this and more. Let me start off with the latest on the bail. It was granted by the Islamabad High Court a day after the Supreme Court called his arrest invalid and unlawful. Remember, the High Court had upheld his arrest, but a three-member Supreme Court bench ordered his release, and the court was left with no choice but to abide by the top court's orders. Khan arrived in a high-security convoy at the Islamabad High Court, where hundreds of police and paramilitary troops had been deployed. He was taken for his biometrics immediately after reaching the court and then appeared before a two-member bench, seeking bail in the Al-Qadir Trust case. In the first session of the hearing, a two-member special division bench of the Islamabad High Court left the courtroom, adjourning the hearing on Khan's bail plea immediately after slogans were chanted in favor of the former leader. And the hearing resumed at 2:30 p.m. Pakistan time. Khan's lawyer, Khwaja Haris, represented the PTI chief's pre-arrest and protective bail applications, and he revealed how he had asked for a copy of the inquiry report by the National Accountability Bureau as well, adding that the NAB should be ordered to provide a copy of the inquiry report. And the lawyer said that they had found out about the anti-graft watchdog's inquiry report from the newspaper, saying that the arrest warrants can be issued only if an inquiry turns into an investigation. And the arguments lasted only for a few minutes. In fact, they were never even needed because the top court had already ruled in Imran Khan's favor. The High Court only toed its line and granted the former Prime Minister a 2-week bail. And this bail has been granted in all the cases registered in Islamabad courts. The judges further barred the authorities from arresting Imran Khan in any case registered after the 9th of May till the 17th of May. And immediately after the court order, Imran Khan spoke to media personnel saying that he was grateful for the judicial system. He also attacked the country's army chief, saying that it is one man who is maligning the entire army. Listen to what he said.
I must say I expected this from our judiciary, because the only hope now left, the only thin line between a banana republic and democracy is that judiciary. That's the only hope we have now. Otherwise, there is no rule of law here. It is a complete law of the jungle. Might is right. You can be picked up. One man in this country decides whatever, and that happens. There's just one man. It's not the security agency. It's one man, the army chief. There's no democracy in that in the army. The army is getting maligned by what is happening right now. And sadly, the events that happened when I was inside, I only found out afterwards, because army is getting maligned because of one man, and one man is scared.
So what happens now? We know he cannot be arrested right now for cases registered in Islamabad. What about the other cases? They could still keep him in trouble. Have a look at this report. Immediately after the court order, a team of the Lahore police left for Islamabad to arrest Imran Khan. And reports say the police team is headed by the Deputy Inspector General of Investigations, and that it could initiate action against Imran Khan over the weekend. So just to put it simply, Imran Khan may be a free man, but he's not entirely out of trouble. There are 12 cases of terrorism against him in Lahore. 14 cases have been registered against him in Faisalabad. And by all means, the authorities will try to go after him. Pakistani leaders are already dropping hints, in fact. Leaders like Rana Sanaullah, the country's interior minister, speaking to Geo News on Friday, he said that the government will arrest Imran Khan again if he does not manage to get bail in all the cases against him. Let me just quote his exact statement. I said it very clearly yesterday that if Imran gets relief in all the cases which are registered against him and gets protective bail, we will not arrest him. In fact, we will try to get his bail nullified And if he is given bail in some cases, and some cases are still left, we will definitely arrest him. So you see, the army is against him, the police is against him, and the government is against him as well. What does the future hold for the former Prime Minister? And will this relief be short-lived? Is it only a matter of time before he is put behind bars again? It certainly seems like that. And the story, of course, is still developing. Watch this space for all the updates. And what we are seeing here is the top court driving the course of political action, telling the government it cannot overstep or let politics walk over the rule of law. And something very similar, by the way, is happening in India. I know the two neighbors, India and Pakistan, don't have much in common anymore, 76 years after partition. But what we do have in common is free and fearless top courts, apex courts that have a tradition of being robustly independent. We just told you what happened in Pakistan in the last 24 hours. First, the top court said that the arrest of former Prime Minister Imran Khan was illegal, and now the court has ruled that Khan must be released from custody and be allowed to walk free. Imran Khan has been granted bail, and he cannot be arrested on the same corruption charges for the next 2 weeks. Those in positions of power may say that this is the court overstepping its limits. But is it really? Or is this Pakistan's top court doing its part to ensure that checks and balances are in place, to ensure that the pillars that a democracy is built on, like separation of power or checks and balances, are respected, irrespective of the state of democracy in that country? In this case, Pakistan, a country with a checkered history of repeated assault on democracy and repeated coups. And on this side of the border, India's top court also has underlined checks and balances. Here's what's happened in the last 24 hours or so. The Supreme Court of India has settled the question of how much power the government of Delhi really has. Also, where the line is drawn vis-a-vis the central government. Now, this has been a long-drawn power tussle. The Delhi government versus the centre, the elected government of Delhi versus the lieutenant governor who is appointed by the centre, and some of you already know the history. The Supreme Court now settled the matter. India's top court said, and I'm quoting, the executive power of NCTD, which stands for National Capital Territory of Delhi, is coextensive with its legislative power. That is, it shall extend to all matters with respect to which it has the power to legislate. The Lieutenant Governor shall be bound by the decisions of the GNCTD, as in the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi, on services, unquote. Just a quick background first. The Aam Aadmi Party, or AAP, which is in power in Delhi, had challenged the right of the centre to control the administrative service in Delhi. The constitutional bench ruled in favour of AAP, and it highlighted the principle of collective responsibility. The court said that if officers stop reporting to ministers, or if they refuse to follow instructions given by the ministers, then the principle of collective responsibility will be affected. Let me just read out the exact words of the Chief Justice of India. If a democratically elected government is not given the power to control the officers, the principle of triple chain of accountability will be redundant. What's the moral of the story here? In the words of the top court, the real power of administration must reside in the elected arm of the state. And isn't that what democracy is all about? Separation of powers, checks and balances. The court, of course, added an exception, saying that the Delhi government's control over services would not extend to public order, police or land. But these details are besides the point. What I'm trying to say here is that instances like these are almost reassuring They are a sign of robust and independent judiciary of a healthy democracy. Of course, Pakistan will be an exception to the latter. Shifting focus for now to the Russia-Ukraine war. What will be Ukraine's next move? I ask this question because of certain unusual developments that we have noticed in the last 24 hours.
Today I can confirm that the UK is donating Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine. Storm Shadow is a long-range, conventional-only precision strike capability. It complements the long-range systems already gifted, including HIMARS and Harpoon missiles, as well as Ukraine's own Neptune cruise missile and longer-range missions elsewhere gifted.
This was the British Defence Minister, Ben Wallace. He says that the UK has sent Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine. They are like HIMARS and Harpoon missiles. And Wallace says what he is not saying is that HIMARS that the Americans have given Ukraine only have a range of around 50 miles, which is 80 kilometers. But the missile that the UK has sent Ukraine has a range of over 155 miles. I'm talking 250 kilometers. Back to my question, what is Ukraine? Or if I were to rephrase, what is the West's plan here exactly?
Ukraine has a right to be able to defend itself against this. The use of Storm Shadow will allow Ukraine to push back Russian forces based within Ukrainian sovereign territory.
Does Ukraine need a long-range missile for that? Is the Storm Shadow the best weapon of choice? Let me just tell you a little bit about this missile system. Storm Shadows are fired from aircraft, and once launched, the missile drops to low altitude. Why does that happen, you ask? Well, to avoid detection. The missile then latches onto its target with an infrared seeker. This missile has been manufactured by the European missile maker, MBDA, and it has been designed to attack high-value targets. Hardened bunkers, for example. Just a quick reminder, this weapon has a range of 250 kilometers, which means it can hit well within Russia. Which also means this weapon puts into question what Kiev has been saying all along. Let me just give you a recent example. When the Kremlin accused Ukraine of trying to assassinate the Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said, "We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our territory. We are defending our villages and cities." Well, then what explains these long-range missiles? The UK has not voluntarily armed Ukraine. Kiev has been asking for long-range missiles for a while now. Now that it has them, what happens next? Is the direction Ukraine's counteroffensive, is this the direction that the counteroffensive will be taking? Will it literally be an offensive? You know, more about moving forward and attacking Russia instead of trying to retake control over lost territory and defending the Ukrainian land. Because that seems to be the sentiment. At one point, Ben Wallace told the British Parliament, and I'm quoting here, "We will simply not stand by as Russia kills civilians. Russia must recognize that its actions alone have led to such systems being provided to Ukraine." Do you sense the eagerness for revenge here? Also, do you think more countries will follow suit? The UK is the first European country to give Ukraine long-range missiles. Ukraine says it is expecting more weapons. Zelensky is once again telling the world that it is still not ready for a counter-offensive. We need to wait. We still need a bit more time, is what the leader is saying. But time for what exactly? Weapons? But what kind of weapons really? Let's just have a look at how analysts think Ukraine can use the Storm Shadows. 1. It can hit Russian ammunition depots. The Russian troops moved the stockpile last year. After Ukraine received HIMARS, the weapons were put outside the 70-kilometer range. Now, with storm shadows, Ukraine can hit the stockpiles once again. Number 2, it can also target Russian ships in Crimean ports. Just to make one thing clear here, we are in no way suggesting that Ukraine is at an advantage here, because that is far from true. Sure, Kiev has been able to secure long-range missiles, but Russia has missile with range of around 2,500 kilometers. I'm talking about the Caliber missiles. What are those, and what does this basically mean? An escalation of the conflict, an attack inside Russia could have a whirlpool effect, possibly pulling in countries that are arming Ukraine. In the last 24 hours, Ukrainian tanks have been seen heading towards Bakhmut, with officials saying the troops have advanced by about 2 kilometers within the city. Ukraine has also released footage of what it claims to be an attack on Russian troops in Bakhmut. The question is this the start of something much bigger and more dangerous? Is this war escalating? And what really is Ukraine's game plan? Our next story focuses on Bangladesh and Myanmar. They are bracing for a cyclonic storm. This could prove to be disastrous for the refugees in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar. They are nearly 1 million in number, living in flimsy shelters, a settlement that a cyclone can blow away. Our next report getting you the complete story.
Cyclone Mocha, the first cyclone to form in the Bay of Bengal this year, is growing stronger day by day and moving north with the speed of 11 kilometers per hour. The Met Office says that the cyclone would make landfall on Sunday on Myanmar's Rakhine State and Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar. What is alarming is the destructive speed of the storm. Experts say the cyclone will touch speeds of 220 kilometers per hour, equal to a Category 4 Atlantic hurricane. What makes this situation riskier are the refugees in Bangladesh. These are refugees who belong to the Rohingya community. They fled from Myanmar during the military crackdown in 2017. The dangerous part is their living condition. Nearly 1 million of them live in flimsy shelters. These shelters, perched on hilly slopes, are vulnerable to strong winds, rain and landslides. Then there is also Bhasanchar, an isolated and flood-prone island in the Bay of Bengal, where hundreds of refugees have made their home. Looking at the community's vulnerability, agencies have ramped up emergency preparedness for the refugees. The UN Refugee Agency is working with the government and refugee communities. It is also training many refugee volunteers to identify risks, informing their communities, evacuating people at the time of disaster, and responding after the disaster strikes. In neighboring Myanmar's Rakhine State and Ayurvedi region, people have already started to evacuate and take shelter. Reports say the Myanmar junta is taking precautionary measures, including making disaster management committees to act on the potential disaster. The UN says that it is worried about the people displaced across Rakhine. This is because parts of Rakhine are in low-lying coastal areas. This makes it more vulnerable to a storm surge. Cyclone Mocha might become one of the most disastrous storms, but Myanmar has a history of meeting cyclones. In 2017, Cyclone Maruta, with winds of 92 kilometers per hour, brought heavy rains and damaged up to 100 homes. Things got serious back in 2010, when Cyclone Giri, a high-end Category 4 storm, came with winds of up to 250 kilometers per hour. It killed over 150 people and destroyed nearly 70% of the city of Gayukpu. Myanmar saw the worst cyclone in 2008. It killed over 140,000 people. affected over 2 million people and displaced more than 800,000. Scientists say there is massive ocean warming taking place, a phenomenon that could result in stronger storms. Studies show the Bay of Bengal is also getting heated. Does this mean that cyclones will occur more often? Is Cyclone Mocha only the tip of the iceberg? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Our next story is on the Israel-Palestine tensions. 30 Palestinians have been killed. Palestine has retaliated by killing one Israeli. Israel has also warned Gaza about how its attack campaign will continue. Have a look at these images. The fire still burning inside destroyed homes, streets with empty shops. Police barriers blocking the roads. This part of the world has suffered airstrikes for 4 straight days. But Gaza is now showing its firepower. It has managed to fire nearly 600 rockets at Israel within 2 days. This comes after Israel fired 400 rockets in a single day, although many of them were intercepted. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad has said that it will continue to fire barrages of rockets. The Islamic Jihad's anger, meanwhile, is on the rise after Israel killed another one of their members. The death of Commander Ahmad Abu Daqqa has brought the kill tally to 5 commanders now. Yesterday, a rocket strike killed Ali Ghali, the commander of the rocket launch unit. On Tuesday, airstrikes killed Jihad Shakir al-Ghanam, who was the secretary of the Al-Quds Brigade's military council, Khalil Salah al-Bahtini, the senior operational officer of the Islamic Jihad, and Tariq Mohammad Ezzeddin, who was in charge of coordination with the group operatives in the West Bank. Israel is not ready to douse the worst flare-up in months. The Israeli Prime Minister continues to push for more strikes and holds up his mission to target the Islamic Jihad members, saying that whoever comes to harm Israel will be killed.
Before dawn, we eliminated the commander of Islamic Jihad's rocket force in Gaza. Now, less than an hour ago, we eliminated his deputy too. As I have already said, whoever comes to harm us, his blood is forfeit, and the blood of his successor is forfeit too.
Earlier, the Islamic Jihad had asked for an Israeli commitment to stop targeted killing operations. But after the recent killing of its 2 members, the Islamic Jihad has said that the killing of the commanders will only encourage them to continue fighting the enemy. Palestinian factions in Gaza, including the Hamas, have also said that if Israel continues with its aggression, dark days lie ahead. Civilians have been left suffering. They are helpless. Since Tuesday, Israel has closed crossings which are used by people to travel and for the transfer of goods. And this move has blocked access to humanitarian needs as well. It's preventing people from accessing medical treatment. Human rights groups saying that the closing of the Beit Hanun crossing has put additional lives at risk as it prevents urgent evacuations. The US has stopped short of a clear call for a truce, but said that the casualties are tragic and heartbreaking. Egypt is actively trying to resolve the conflict through a truce. The Egyptian foreign minister met with the French and German counterparts and has called for peace-sponsoring countries to intervene and stop the attacks. Let's just take a look at how all of this started. Tensions flared up last week. Reports say Palestine fired over 100 rockets at Israel, and this led to the death of a prominent Palestinian in jail, whose body Israel refuses to release for burial. After a few days, Israel launched Operation Shield and Arrow in the early hours of Tuesday, and this attack led to the death of 3 top Islamic Jihad members. Experts say Israel's attacks could amount to war crimes, especially with the rising civilian death toll. Will the 2 sides ever agree on a truce that holds. We will be tracking the very latest for you. Moving on for now, a Starbucks advertisement has gone viral on the internet. You might have come across it already. It is a part of the brand's campaign. It starts with your name. The ad essentially aimed to send out a message of inclusivity, acceptance, but not everyone is accepting it. The seemingly harmless and wholesome video has attracted backlash. Netizens are crying out loud to boycott Starbucks. Let's just have a look at what the fuss is all about. This is how the advertisement goes. A couple, most probably in their 50s or 60s, seen waiting for their son Arpit. Their age foreshadows a generational gap. Put simply, it seems the couple is not what they call woke, quote unquote. The lady asks her husband to stay composed and not throw a fit of rage. Just when a viewer would expect a boy to walk in, a girl in a red dress enters the cafe, hugs the mother wholeheartedly, but has a rather awkward exchange with the father, who offers to order coffee, and so far it's not clear if the man accepts the child's new gender identity or not. He walks to the counter and orders coffee. Now, if you have been to Starbucks, you know how the baristas write your name on the coffee cups. And that is when a plot twist comes about. The barista calls out for Arpita. Not Arpit, but Arpita. And this highlights that Arpita's father has finally accepted her for who she is, a transgender woman. The tension in the air soon turns into love and acceptance. So far, so good. I have laid out everything for you. Did you find anything problematic? Which part exactly? Is it the part where a transgender woman is confident of her identity? Or is it when a seemingly conservative father finally accepts the change? Well, a lot of netizens welcomed the ad. They appreciated the coffee giant for addressing the stigma surrounding transgender people. But there was also a lot of backlash and hate commentary. Some called it a large dose of extremist American gender ideology. Some labeled it wokeism. Others dismissed it as Western corporations preaching to Indian society. Many claimed Starbucks had become synonymous with propaganda and called for boycotting the brand altogether. But my question is, how is this Western propaganda? Transgenders have existed in India well before westernization, quote unquote. The only difference is, earlier they were either closeted or shunned out of the society. They were singled out and even denied education and job opportunities. And now they are walking out confidently and identifying as the gender they want to. A lot of Indians are becoming more aware, even sensitive to transgender rights. But many are still transphobic and call it extremism. Let's just make one thing very clear. Gender identification and sexual orientation are not something that exists only in the West. They very well exist in India. Around 4.8 million Indians identify as transgenders, 4.8 million. While there are no recent official records, estimates suggest 2.5 million Indians say they belong to the LGBTQ community. Then how exactly is this wokeism or a Western concept? It's just that now Indians have finally opened up their eyes and started accepting people without judgments and bias. They are creating trans and queer-friendly spaces as well. Transgenders are being represented in Bollywood and on other media platforms as well. There are pride parades, there are gay bars, queer circles, support groups out there. But then, there are also people who hide behind their screens and bully them online. who tweet and retweet hate towards trans people and are proud of their transphobia in the name of culture. But do we really need to boycott an ad that promotes inclusivity? Or do we need to introspect, look into our implicit bias, and open up our minds? And our next story is about a YouTuber who is trending for all the wrong reasons. Any guesses why? For crashing a plane on purpose. You heard that right. And for what? To grab a sponsorship deal and gain more online views. You heard that right. Meet Trevor Jacob, a 29-year-old YouTuber with a following of over 138,000 subscribers. Jacob loves sharing his adventures. According to his YouTube channel description, he loves sharing things he has learned with his audience. So what exactly has he learned? Perhaps purposely crashing a plane, calling it an accident, and destroying supporting evidence. But the question is, what for? Why would someone put their life in danger, damage an aviation property, recast it as an accident, and pretend to run for his life? As bizarre as it may sound, it is to seal a sponsorship deal, get more channel views, trend on social media perhaps, all the planning and plotting just to ace the online number game. Back in December 2021, Trevor posted a video titled as "I crashed my airplane." And as of now, this video has more than 3 million views. In this video, Jacob, who is an experienced pilot and a skydiver, claims that his plane malfunctioned and can be seen ejecting mid-air. Sounds reasonable, does it not? So what really went wrong? And how did an apparent accident turn out to be a concealed plot? Roughly 2 minutes into the video, Jacob is seen opening a sports parachute while the aircraft crashes into the mountains. Now, according to experts, wearing a sports parachute is particularly unusual. The FAA, or the Federation Aviation Administration, has pointed out 9 such red flags, proving that this crash was intentional. These include multiple cameras attached at various strategic angles to capture the crash, opening the pilot door before claiming that the engine had failed. In fact, there was no attempt made to contact the air traffic control or to restart the engine. Above all, there was not even a single attempt to land the aircraft safely. And after jumping, Jacob continued to hold the camera and record his descent. And it doesn't even stop here. Jacob lied to the authorities, said that he did not know where the plane crashed. But the truth is, he returned by the helicopter, secured the stunt footage, recovered the camera, and disposed of the wreckage. How? He cut the plane into small pieces and dumped the parts in various dustbins. And what was the result? Jacob's flying license has now been revoked and he is likely to face up to 20 years in prison. Further, he has agreed to plead guilty on 2 accounts, 1 of felony and 2 obstructing an investigation. Jacob's story raises a very serious question. That is, in the quest of getting more views and gaining more followers, how far can one go? We surely live in times of the social media, its luring influence, where every comment, every follower, every post matters. But what is the price that you are willing to pay to ace the social media game? And is it really worth it? They say that fame is the thirst of youth, but tonight I ask, at what cost? Adidas has finally disclosed what it's going to do with its millions of unsold pairs of Yeezy shoes that were left over after the brand dissolved its deal with Kanye West. The company will be selling the shoes and donating the proceeds to organizations that were also hurt by the rapper's comments. Our next report taking a closer look at the costs incurred by brands when it comes to investing in stars.
Kanye West, rapper, singer, songwriter, record producer, and fashion designer, officially known as Ye. Adidas, world's second largest sportswear manufacturer, with a brand value of $14.6 billion US, employing around 59,000 people worldwide. And when Kanye West, or Ye, joined hands, it was a match made in corporate heaven. The deal was inked in November 2013. In 6 years, Adidas' sales of his Yeezy brand were more than $1 billion annually. But since 2019, the relationship started to sour. Despite this, the Adidas Yeezy sales continued to soar. The partnership that went on to make Ye a billionaire. But his controversies were never ending. Come to October 2022, Adidas terminated the deal with the controversial rapper after a series of anti-Semitic outbursts. Cutting ties with rapper Ye was a costly affair for Adidas. The company took a loss of $655 million in sales for the last 3 months of 2022. But the German sportswear brand had a bigger problem: what to do with all the surplus shoes. We are talking about warehouses full of these shoes, which are worth a whopping $1.3 billion. Yes, that's the worth of unsold Yeezy stock weighing on the German sportswear company. After scratching their heads over the fate of millions of unsold Yeezy shoes, Adidas executives have decided to sell a part of them and donate the proceeds to charity. Adidas CEO Bjørn Gulden has not provided exact details of how many shoes will be sold and by when. Gulden did also not go into detail about which organizations will get donations. He said the company will provide updates as they move forward. But the unsold shoes are not the only baggage left behind by Ye. Adidas is being sued by investors. They say the company knew about Kanye West's problematic behavior for years before it ended their partnership. Investors allege Adidas failed to limit financial losses and take precautionary measures to minimize their exposure. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Our next story is from India. In a move to provide a smoother experience, the government is set to implement a faster clearance procedure in the airports. This procedure will be applicable for Indians flying overseas. What is this new plan all about, and how will it make traveling easier for Indians? You see, Indian airports come under a lot of strain, with passengers often complaining about congestion. The Indian government, in fact, has heard the pleas of its citizens and plans to roll out the Trusted Traveller program. What is it all about? Well, it's meant to smoothen immigration checks. It will allow quick clearance for pre-verified travellers. Delhi and Mumbai will start off the program. And by 2027, the plan will be implemented at 15 airports and will be available at all the airports by 2032. So what is the new program all about? India's new plan is loosely based on a US program. It's called the Global Entry Program. Both the procedures work on e-gates, electronic gates that will allow the Indian passport holders to pass through after checking their passport through a verification system. And if a person is of interest, then the e-gate will reject entry and the person will need to go to a manual counter. But there is a major difference between India and America's travel programs. India's Trusted Traveller program allows arrivals and departures, whereas America's global entry system only applies to arrivals. And this might be a major upgrade to the American system. In fact, officials say that although the new program will reduce workload and automate the process, a person might still need to verify and approve a passenger's identity based on the immigration database. And Delhi will be the first to implement the new system. We might know why it was chosen for the pilot program. You see, the Delhi airport is one of the busiest airports in the world. Last year, the airport witnessed nearly 60 million travelers, and this represented India's ambition to become a major center for aviation. Indian airports have been under a lot of strain. They are pressured due to the heavy traffic of the travelers. Last year, when passengers complained of congestion at the airports, the Aviation Ministry reduced flights at peak hours and urged to add more X-ray machines as well. In fact, the Bureau for Civil Aviation Security has come up with another solution. It said that airports receiving 10 million passengers every year will need to introduce full body scanners, and this move was meant to smoothen the immigration process and the security checks. Will India's traveller program bring in more tourists? Will Indians now prefer to travel abroad more often? It remains to be seen. For now, it is a move that is being lauded. Each year, what is special about the 14th of May? Well, it's Mother's Day. And how are you planning on making the day extra special for your mother? Maybe you are gifting her a bouquet, a perfume, or planning to take her out for a lavish meal. We often say that every day is Mother's Day. But Mother's Day is an occasion where we really need to think about one question. And the question is, do we really celebrate our mothers enough? Being a mother is the most thankless job out there. A mother works round the clock, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, non-stop without any breaks. It is the most overworked portfolio. A portfolio that comes with multiple roles, without any annual leave or opportunity for sick days. A mother has no weekends off. She never gets a sabbatical. She has to be on call and ready to go, no matter the time, day or night. And just in case she thinks of taking a minute off, the mother's guilt creeps in. Guilty mother syndrome, as they name it, call it societal conditioning, or call it the way of life. That is a mother's job portfolio. Think about it. Would you ever consciously say yes to such a job? So what is it that your mother really wants on Mother's Day? Well, as per a recent survey in India, there was 72% year-on-year growth in Mother's Day gifting, both in small cities and metros alike. And what was the most gifted item? Cakes and flowers. But have you ever thought that maybe it's not a cake or a lavish bouquet, but not even that luxury perfume or expensive diamonds? Maybe it's just as basic as enough sleep or to not cook a meal. Maybe it's just time alone, what we popularly call as me time. Come to think of it, why wouldn't your mother crave her me time? Your mother's job portfolio has infinite roles to play. From bearing a child to raising one, everything that happens in between. It's a lifetime-long job, perhaps with no retirement age. Once a mother, always a mother. A recent survey conducted by the Lego Group, the makers of iconic kids' toys, revealed that nearly 2,000 mothers say that they want time to themselves on Mother's Day. This would be their ideal Mother's Day gift. This survey was in collaboration with Moonpig, a gifting company, and the purpose essentially was to come up with the perfect Mother's Day gift. Do you know how many mothers were surveyed in total? 2,000. You see the point? This means all the mothers that were surveyed, all of them centered their answer to wanting me time. 58% respondents, meanwhile, said they want to be able to drop everything on Mother's Day and be away from kids and family. Unsurprisingly, taking a nap was ranked high as well. This was followed by being able to listen to some good music. In fact, a 2022 university study revealed that parental burnout in the US has reached epidemic proportions. Mothers are disproportionately affected a lot more. The number is 68%. Do you notice the pattern here? The persistent theme, which is that mothers feel they do not have any time for the simplest of pleasures. Some of these are even basic necessities. They are too busy with their jobs, the job of being a mother. And now come to think of it, what are the perks of a mother's portfolio? Can't think of any? Well, there's your answer. This portfolio has 0 perks. And what about the job efficiency that it demands? 100%. Being a mother is a full-time job that doesn't even factor in the country's GDP, does not even factor into the country's GDP. Yet it is a job that if people stop doing, the country would fall apart in a way, like a house of cards. With that, I leave you to think. Do mothers really want flowers this Mother's Day? If not, let me just give you the suggestion and hope that your mother likes it too. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition. Have a good weekend, leaving you with Gravitas Images. Thanks for watching.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us